In 2022, you probably played this JRPG, or this one, or even this one. But there's quite a few hidden gems that you probably missed, and in this video we'll be looking at 5 great ones. Starting with the one you're all probably most familiar with by now, Chained Echoes. Developed by one person over the course of 7 years, Chained Echoes is a 16-bit love letter to classic JRPGs like Chrono Trigger and Xenogears. Now, what hits you immediately is its gorgeous art style. It has beautiful colors, tons of intricate details, and awesome animation throughout the entire game. To me, this is a huge step above most 16-bit throwbacks. Now, there's a lot of developers that do these pixel work throwback games, but to me, Chained Echoes is refreshing in so many ways. And probably the biggest one is the combat system. Now, it's a turn-based system, and you can have up to 4 characters in your party at any given time, although you can swap out characters on the fly without losing a turn, which I love. But the most unique part about it is the overdrive system. Essentially, there's this green bar that will be on display at all times, and what you're trying to do is stay within that green bar, because once you do more damage, take less damage, and your abilities cost less to do. Now, you need to be careful too, because you don't want to overheat and go above that, because you'll end up taking more damage. So it's this really unique balance of, doing moves that will reduce your meter to stay within the green bar in the overdrive system, but also making sure you do the right moves to do damage to the enemies. To me, I just found this balance super engaging. And just when I thought turn-based JRPGs had run out of fresh ideas, here comes Chained Echoes and breathes new life into the genre. Now, one thing that I think not enough people are talking about is the design of the game. It's how it's structured, how you interact with the world, how the game guides you from one story beat to the next. It encourages exploration in really fun ways, like these rafts in this sewer section, or just, ways you can explore the world. I found it really engaging and just super fun to explore. Not to mention, there's tons of mini games to keep things fresh throughout, whether it be, racing turtles or button mashing in this little game at the fair, whatever it may be, there's always something unique to do. Oh, also, there are flying giant robots in the game that you can control, so there's your Xenogears reference. Again, most of you probably know about this game by now, but if you haven't, get on it. It's absolutely one of the best games of 2022. Now, one game that I reviewed earlier this year that I still don't think is getting the attention it deserves is Crystal Project. Again, it's from a one-man development team with a unique spin on classic JRPGs. Man, what's with the one-man teams this year just killing it with cool games? I love it. Now, Crystal Project has more emphasis on exploration and, weirdly enough, platforming. There's huge zones throughout this game with lots to explore and discover, and the main thing you'll be searching for are these giant crystals that grant you new classes for your characters. Now, these crystals are hidden deep within dungeons, protected by giant boss characters. And to get there, you'll be doing a fair bit of platform, but also turn-based combat. Combat is a turn-based system with a party of 4 characters, and you'll start with basic classes like warrior, healer, mage, things like that. But as you discover more crystals, you can mix and match these classes in really fun ways. Also, I really like the Paper Mario-esque art style with the flat 2D characters and the 3D environments. I just thought it worked together really well. Not to mention it has a pretty killer soundtrack. Now, if you played all the big JRPGs this year and looking for something a little different, definitely check out Crystal Project. Dark Deity technically released in 2021, but released on Nintendo Switch this year, so I wanted to give it some extra love because I really love this game. Now, it's a strategy RPG based on classic Fire Emblem titles. Everything from 8-bit characters on the battlefield and those animations when you attack a character. Now, as you level up characters, you'll be able to change your class at certain intervals, creating some really unique builds. Now, you have to be careful because you can't go back. And the other thing is you don't buy new weapons, but instead you kind of upgrade the same ones throughout the game with different stats. For example, you'll have one that does big damage and another that does more critical damage. It feels more streamlined and it allows you to just focus on the combat. And to me, that's where the game shines brightest. To me, these are some of the most well-designed maps in any strategy RPG I've ever played. As you'll play through it, you'll just feel so engaged and enthralled in the strategy, just trying to do it as best as you can. For example, there's one map where you're trying to escape a prison while freeing characters along the way, and another where you're trying to survive a giant onslaught while protecting a particular object. It just feels so satisfying to see your strategy come to fruition once you finish the maps. Also, I feel like Dark Deity has a great user interface, giving you all the information you'll need to make the best decisions. You can tell at a quick glance who's the enemy, who's on your team, if you'll be able to do more damage or less damage depending on what class they are. I just love that it gives you all the information right at your fingertips. Again, there's a lot of Fire Emblem inspired games out there, but to me, Dark Deity is the absolute best. Now, one game I had on my radar all throughout this year was RPGolf Legends, not only because it has a unique mix of golfing and RPG game mechanics, but also because it was published by Kemco. Now, usually Kemco publishes a lot of RPG Maker style games, and they do it literally every single month, but this didn't look anything like those games, so I was curious to see why they decided to pick this one up. Now, the basic game loop here is that you'll be fighting monsters to unlock a hole, you'll golf at that hole, and then move on to the next one. Mixed in throughout, you'll have towns that you can explore, as well as a fishing minigame and a bit of crafting. So if golfing or fighting monsters gets a little bit old, there are a few different mechanics to keep things fresh. Now, despite this being called RPGolf Legends, it plays much more like a Zelda than an RPG. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, just a little bit misleading. Also, I love the art style here. It's great pixel art with excellent use of colors, particularly on the main character. Now, I have to admit this game is not without its drawbacks. To me, the camera felt just a little too tight, and this felt extra frustrating because during cutscenes, sometimes the camera would zoom out, and it's like, no, stay like that. I wish it would just stay like that the whole time. Also, it can be a little bit tricky to find the next hole you're trying to get to, and you'll be doing a bit of wandering around. Now, if those last two things don't sound like a big bother to you, I would definitely check this out. You'll probably have a good time with it. Now, the most unique game on this list is RPG Time: The Legend of Wright. Now, this is also not really a JRPG directly, but it has so much charm oozing from every corner, and it's clearly inspired by JRPGs, and I think fans of this genre will be delighted to play it. Now, the premise is that you're an elementary school student and your friend Kenta has created an entire RPG adventure for you to play through. This is complete with cardboard dioramas, characters on straws that he narrates, and pencil drawings that he'll do in his notebook. Throughout the adventure, you'll be constantly going through new situations with fresh mechanics. In one moment, you'll be dodging bullets in a classic space shooter type game, and the next, you'll be playing baseball. I get it, it sounds a bit odd, but it comes together in such a fun way. Now, admittedly, the game is pretty on rails, as it's more about experiencing the game as Kenta narrates it to you, and that may turn people off, but to me, I really enjoyed that style of storytelling. It just felt really refreshing and different. Now, to me, the charm is what is really going to pull you through this game. As someone that used to make up his own adventures just like this in an elementary school, I'll admit that my own personal nostalgia probably affected my enjoyment more than most. As Kenta would present new chapters in his adventures, I remember doing the same with my own friends after discovering JRPGs for the very first time. Your mileage will certainly vary with RPG Time, but if this sounds at all interesting to you, I promise you'll have a wonderfully charming time. Now, if you love JRPGs, you're going to want to subscribe if you're not already, because next I'll be counting down my top 10 favorites from 2022, and then I'll tell you about every JRPG announced for 2023 so far. You're not going to want to miss either video. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.